Good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Text Messages on the Parasite Rig Text. We're glad to be broadcasting. The Text Messages the Resurrection. We're glad to be broadcasting from Elk River, Minnesota. We have a bit of a blizzard outside today, so it's good to be indoors where it's nice and warm, a paltry 60 degrees. We're definitely happy about that. It allows us to bring Text Messages the Resurrection to you at a high level. Now, as you can see in the background here, we got a picture of a globe. As you can see, it's a globe. It's not a flat disc. And there's about 30 satellites orbiting it, and then the satellites are changing color because there's a point on the Earth's surface that these satellites are able to communicate with. So that point will identify, based on the amount of time it takes to get these messages from each satellite, exactly where it is on the Earth. What that is called is GPS, otherwise known as Global Positioning Systems. So we're gonna delve into that a little bit today, ladies and gentlemen. Figured we'd switch gears a little bit and talk about some more scientifically related stuff. And we probably will. I mean, we may migrate into science a little bit. Hopefully not illegally migrate into it, but migrate in some fashion. So, getting into a little bit about history. GPS was first originated, at least as far as public knowledge goes, in the early 1970s. The U.S. Air Force, who still maintains and runs it to this day. So in the early 1970s, the U.S. Air Force initiated it, and by 1980, it became commercial. Apparently something happened where a Korean air flight, Pan Am air flight, flew into Soviet airspace and then they shot him down. So the U.S. decided to make GPS available so that there were no, or at least that it would minimize navigational errors like that, because that's essentially what happened. The Korean flight had a navigational error and it flew into Soviet airspace, they shot it down, 200 some people died. So, I mean, was it a false flag? Maybe, maybe not, but it was a tragedy, irregardless. So, 1980s, it became public, and it didn't really have all the features and functionality of it until about early 2000s. George W. Bush signed something into play which allowed all commercial companies to use it, and pretty much everybody uses it now. So, it also allows foreign governments to use it as well. So that's why there's separate channels. One channel is the encrypted military one, and then one is civilian commercial. So the GPS satellites, they have time and location, and it's set to synchronize with the atomic clocks. Now these receivers on the surface, they need at least 4 satellites to get their accurate position. Usually, on average, they have about 9 of them, which is definitely more than enough. So, the GPS consists of 3 segments: space, control, and user. So, space. These satellites are in medium Earth orbit. So there's low Earth orbit, and then medium Earth orbit, and then those geostationary. Geostationary, it's called stationary because it basically stays with the Earth's rotation. It rotates at the same, same rotational velocity as the Earth. So it makes one revolution every 24 hours, whereas the medium Earth orbiters rotate 2 times around the Earth, and then the low Earth orbiters are 12 times around the Earth. So the GPS satellites, they rotate 2 times around the Earth in one day, in 24-hour time period. I guess I should reiterate that. And there's 30 satellites up there. Occasionally 1 or 2 of them will go out of service when they gotta get them back in their proper orbiting sequence or synchronize the times, whatever the case may be. So they rotate, technically they rotate, to be exact, 11 hours and 58 minutes. That's a sidereal day, 23 hours, 59 minutes or whatever. And at any given time, 9 are available on the receiver. So that's the space segment. Now we have the control segment as well. So the control segment consists of a master control station along with an alternate control station. The master control station is a Schreier Air Force Base in Colorado, so it's basically in the central of the USA. And they also have 4 U.S. Air Force Satellite Control Network ground antennas, which are located in the North Pacific Ocean. Then they're located between Africa and South America. There's a little island out there, kind of in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. And then they're located in the Indian Ocean, just south of the equator. And then they got one in Florida too. So they spread them out pretty good. And what the ground antennas do is they just synchronize the clocks and adjust their ephemeris, which is their orbit around the orbit of the satellite. So sometimes they'll have to adjust them and then say the satellite is out of service. So if you're running a GPS and it says satellite out of service, that's usually what it means. It's just getting synchronized back up and get into the right orbit. So there's also 6 monitor stations. There's one in Hawaii, then they got the ones, the others. There's ones in Hawaii and Colorado, then the 4 other ones where all the ground antennas are. So they essentially just monitor the satellites and make sure their time is right and their orbits are correct. And if not, then the antenna will communicate with them and tell them to get back in orbit, you know, the proper sequence or whatever. And that's the one thing to know about GPS is the satellites communicate one way to you as a user. There's no communicating back. Now, if you're thinking about, you know, all the NSA steals all your information, or Apple, Google, and all listen to your info, that's at a cell phone level. So the GPS transmit the information to the cell phone gets that information, then they send it out to Apple and Google and NSA and all that. So the user, now the user can be military, civilian, commercial, scientific, and you typically have an antenna. So you receive the signal from the antenna, and it's broadcast at 1.5 gigahertz and 1.22 gigahertz. There's also a few other bands that they may use in the future which will have other functionality, but we won't really delve into that too much. So your antennas are tuned to those frequencies, obviously, and then there's a processor inside of it, and then there's a clock, a crystal oscillator. So you have up to 20 channel numbers which allow you a greater resolution. And the channels, they monitor the altitude, longitude, latitude, heading, speed, and then your altitude off the face of the planet Earth. And then, of course, the navigational signals are transmitted to the public in lower resolution, and they're encrypted to the military. So the military can still do their thing on the side, and then commercial users can still use it as well. See, I used to work at this one place a while back. It was traffic signal preemption. They had these boxes inside traffic lights, which would allow green lights for emergency vehicles, an ambulance, fire truck, a police car. So what would happen is, initially when the systems were in their when the systems first came out, they used infrared. So there'd be a unit inside a police car that would flash an infrared at the traffic signal, maybe 11 times per second, 13 times, something like that. It would depend on whether it was a priority 1 or priority 2 vehicle. Ambulance, fire truck, police car, priority 1. And then you had buses and some other garbage like that, which are priority 2. In big cities, the buses would use it as well so that they could get on their right schedule. But later on, we began to use the GPS system. So you'd have the GPS receiver in the traffic signal, and you'd have a GPS receiver in the vehicle. And then the traffic signal knew where its position was, and the vehicle knew where its position was, and they communicated with each other. So the traffic signal would have what was called a plot map. So once the vehicle was inside this box, so basically, if you had a signal inside the traffic light, and you're at an intersection, you would draw out this box that was 200 meters from the traffic light, and then once the vehicle was inside that box, then the signal would preempt it and give a green light for the emergency vehicle that was passing through. So, you know, it's like central management software on site. Sell it to a lot of city municipals and cities and counties and things of that nature. Whoever ran the stoplights is basically whoever got them. So yeah, that worked out pretty good. And then there's some other features and functionality as well. You know, you knew the speed and the heading of the vehicle and whether it was going away or towards the stoplight. So that definitely helped out. With the infrared, it was just as soon as it was within range and it could pick up the signal, then it would give you a green light. But if it was raining, if there's snow, if there's sleet, if there's anything blocking the infrared light, then that green light wouldn't work. So that's why we had to go to the GPS, because it just had the receivers, and pretty much 1.5 and 1.22 gigahertz can puncture through any sort of atmospheric effects. I mean, yeah, they will alter their course a little bit, but by and large, they can pretty much get through anything. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that's pretty much GPS in a nutshell, and we enjoy GPS to this day. It works great on cell phones. It gets us to and from our destination. That's the other thing too. It's just GPS. It's one of them things where it's, rather than thinking about trying to get to a house and finding a house at night and all this good fun stuff, you can just type it in a GPS and boom, you're there. That's where technology really pays off and helps us. And it definitely makes our societies great again. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we thank you very much for joining us here. We hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Without you, we are absolutely nothing, and we'll be back momentarily to do another show for this evening. Thank you very much.